You know the moment after. The crying has stopped. The house is quiet again, and you are sitting with what just happened, replaying it. The tone of your voice, the thing you said, the way you walked out of the room, the look on their face. And somewhere in the quiet, a voice asks the question you do not want to answer. What kind of parent does that? This video is for the parent sitting in that moment right now. Because that question deserves a real answer. Not reassurance, not a gentle pat on the back telling you that everyone loses it sometimes. A real, biological, science-backed answer to why that keeps happening, and exactly what to do before it happens again. Losing patience with a crying child is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you love your child less than other parents love theirs. It is not proof that you are cut out for this, or that you are not. It is not a moral failure that needs to be confessed or punished or overcome through sheer willpower and a better attitude. It is a neurological event. A predictable, measurable, biological sequence happening inside your brain, triggered by one of the most neurologically activating sounds the human nervous system is capable of producing. Your child's cry, and the moment you understand what that sound actually does to your brain, and why your brain responds the way it does, the shame begins to lift, and something far more useful takes its place. Understanding. And a way through. There are 4 specific things that happen inside your nervous system when your child cries. 4 biological triggers that build on each other, one after another, until the part of your brain responsible for calm, measured, patient responses has been completely taken offline. And there are 4 specific ways to interrupt each one of them before they reach that point. Not after. Before, because patience is not a personality trait you either have or do not have. It is a neurological state. And neurological states can be worked with. Research into how the adult brain responds to infant and child crying has found something that should change everything about how you judge yourself in hard moments. A child's cry activates the threat detection system of the adult brain. Not gently. Not mildly, with the same urgency and the same neurological force as a smoke alarm going off in a quiet room. The amygdala, the brain's threat response center, fires immediately and powerfully. Cortisol and adrenaline begin moving through the body. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten. The brain shifts into a state designed for one purpose: responding to danger. This is not a weakness in parents who struggle. This is human biology, doing exactly what it evolved to do. A child's cry was always meant to be impossible to ignore, because for most of human history, ignoring it had consequences. The problem is that a brain in threat response mode is not a brain that can access patience, perspective, empathy, or regulated calm. Those things live in the prefrontal cortex. And when the threat response fires, the prefrontal cortex goes quiet. You do not lose patience because you are a bad parent. You lose it because your brain just turned off the part that produces it. Trigger 1. The threat response. The first trigger is the one we just described, and it happens before you have made a single conscious decision. Your child cries. Your amygdala fires. Your body enters a state of threat readiness. In that state, everything is louder, more urgent, more physically felt than it would be in a calm moment. The cry that might seem manageable on a rested, peaceful day feels genuinely unbearable on a hard one. Because your threat response is already elevated, and the cry lands on top of it. This is not you failing to manage your emotions. This is a brain doing exactly what brains do. Trigger 2. The helplessness spiral. The second trigger builds on the first. You respond to the cry. You try everything. You feed. You rock. You change. You hold. you put down, you pick back up. And the crying continues. Here is what happens in the brain when we try to solve a problem and cannot. A second stress response fires, layered on top of the first. Researchers call this the helplessness response, and it is one of the most destabilizing neurological states a human being can be in. The brain is trying to fix something and receiving no signal that the fix is working. The cortisol keeps rising, the sense of urgency keeps climbing, and the emotional flooding that leads to losing patience gets closer with every minute the crying continues. This is why a crying child who cannot be settled is so much harder to handle than a crying child who calms quickly. It is not about the volume. It is about what prolonged, unresolvable distress does to a brain that is trying desperately to help. You are not failing. You are flooding. There is a difference. Trigger 3. The depletion multiplier. The third trigger is the one most parents recognize immediately when they hear it named. Whatever your nervous system's capacity for patience is on a full night of sleep, with adequate food, with some time to yourself, with a sense that things are manageable, have it when you are sleep-deprived. Have it again when you have not eaten. Have it again when you have been alone with a crying child for hours. Have it again when the finances are difficult, or the relationship is strained, or the support around you is thin. Patience is not a fixed resource. It is a renewable one, and it renews through rest, through connection, through moments of genuine recovery. A depleted nervous system does not produce less patience because of weakness. It produces less patience because it is running on empty. This is biological. And it matters because it means the answer to chronic patience problems is not trying harder in the moment. It is refilling the resource before the moment arrives. Trigger 4. The personal history activation. The fourth trigger is the quietest one, and the one that reaches furthest back. Sometimes a child's cry activates something that has nothing to do with today. Old feelings of helplessness, old memories of being overwhelmed and unheard, old experiences of need going unmet that never fully resolved. The cry of your child can, in some moments, reach back and touch those places, and the response that floods in is not just about what is happening now. It is about everything that happened then, too. This is not something to push through or ignore. If you recognize this pattern, if certain cries or certain moments consistently activate something that feels much bigger than the situation, speaking to a therapist or counselor is one of the most useful and courageous things a parent can do. Not because something is wrong with you, because something old is asking for attention. Here is what you can actually do, in real time, in the middle of a crying episode, to interrupt each trigger before it reaches the point of no return. Interruption 1. Name the state out loud. When the cry starts and you feel the threat response firing, say it. Not to your child, to yourself. My brain just went into threat mode. This is cortisol. This is not an emergency. Naming a neurological state activates the prefrontal cortex, the exact region the threat response is trying to shut down. One sentence. Out loud, or in your head. It creates just enough of a gap between trigger and reaction to make a different choice possible. Interruption 2. Drop your shoulders and breathe out first. Not a deep breath in. Out first. A long, slow exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's calm-down system, faster than almost any other physical action. If your child is safe, take one long breath out before you respond. Your body cannot maintain a full threat response during a genuine exhale. You are using your own biology to interrupt the sequence. Interruption 3. Lower your body and lower your voice. When a child is crying and a parent's body gets tense and tall and their voice gets sharp, the child's nervous system detects threat and escalates. When a parent consciously drops to their level, softens their posture, and drops their voice lower and slower, both nervous systems begin to de-escalate together. This is co-regulation, and it works in both directions. Calming your body is not just for you, it is the most direct tool you have for calming them. Interruption 4. Say the one sentence. When you are close to the edge, when you can feel that the response is coming, one sentence stops the spiral. I am not angry at you. I am overwhelmed right now. Said quietly. To yourself if needed. To your child if you can. It separates who they are from what you are feeling. It keeps the relationship intact inside the hardest moment. And it tells your own brain, clearly in language, that this is not a threat. This is a child who needs you. And you are still here. Here is what needs to be said clearly, not to add guilt, but to add motivation. When a parent loses patience, raises their voice, goes cold, leaves the room in anger, the child's nervous system responds immediately. Cortisol spikes. The threat response fires. The exact state the child was already in gets worse, and a child whose distress is met with more distress learns something slowly and quietly over many repetitions. That their feelings make the people they love unsafe. That need is dangerous. That the place they were supposed to go with their biggest feelings is not reliably safe. This is not caused by one hard moment. It is shaped by patterns. And the pattern can change. Starting with understanding what drives it. Every parent who has ever lost their patience with a crying child was running on empty, without a map, without anyone explaining what was happening in their own nervous system, without tools that work in real time, without the basic biological information that their reaction was not a character flaw, but a predictable response to an impossible accumulation of pressure. If patience has been genuinely difficult, if the hard moments are frequent and the shame is heavy, it is worth knowing that postnatal depression and anxiety can show up as irritability and low tolerance long before they show up as sadness. And support for that is available. Reaching out is not weakness. It is one of the most important things a struggling parent can do. You were not failing. You were trying without the information you needed. Now, you have more of it. Here is the question that divides parents immediately. Is it ever okay to walk away from a crying child? One side says absolutely not, that leaving a distressed child alone is a form of emotional abandonment, that no matter how overwhelmed the parent is, staying present is always the right choice. The other side, and the science supports this strongly, says that a regulated walk-away is completely different from an abandonment response. If a child is physically safe and a parent is within seconds of saying or doing something damaging, stepping out of the room for 60 seconds, taking a breath, and returning calm, is not abandonment. It is regulation. Intentional, responsible, self-aware regulation. The distinction is everything. Walking away to protect the child from your dysregulation is an act of love. Walking away because the feeling is too hard and not returning, that is different. Know the difference. And use the first one without shame when you need it. Trauma-informed psychology uses a term called the window of tolerance. It describes the neurological zone in which a person can function, respond, and make choices that reflect their values. Inside the window, you can be the parent you want to be. You have access to patience, empathy, and calm. Outside the window, flooded or completely shut down, you cannot. Not through trying harder, not through loving your child more. The access is simply not there. What determines the size of your window is not your character. It is your nervous system's current resources. Sleep, food, support, rest, connection, safety. A parent with a wide window handles a crying child with relative ease. A parent with a narrow window, depleted, isolated, under pressure, hits the edge of that window fast. And what looks like impatience from the outside is simply a nervous system that ran out of room. Expanding the window is not about developing better self-control. It is about resourcing the nervous system before the hard moment arrives. If this is giving you a completely different way of understanding your own reactions, not as failures, but as biology, this channel is exactly where you need to be. Real science, real empathy. No judgment. Hit subscribe right now. Patience cannot be summoned in the moment if the resource was never built before it. Here is the simplest daily practice that expands your window of tolerance over time. 5 minutes of genuine stillness every day. Not scrolling. Not productive rest. Actual stillness. Sitting quietly. Eyes closed or open. No input. No task. Just your own nervous system being allowed to come down from whatever level of alert it has been running at. 5 minutes. Every day. Before the hard moments arrive. Research on nervous system regulation consistently shows that brief daily periods of genuine rest, not sleep, not distraction, genuine quiet, measurably increase emotional regulation capacity over time. You are not doing nothing in those 5 minutes. You are widening your window. You are building the resource that becomes patience when your child cries at the worst possible moment, and 5 minutes is available to almost every parent. In the car before you go inside. In the bathroom with the door closed. In the 2 minutes after your child falls asleep before you pick up your phone. 5 minutes. Daily. Before the storm. That is the whole practice. You are not an impatient parent. You are a nervous system doing its absolute best inside an impossible accumulation of pressure, without enough sleep, without enough support, without enough of the information that would have made every hard moment make more sense. The patience you are looking for is not hiding behind better self-discipline, or a stronger character, or a version of you that loves your child more than you already do. It is waiting on the other side of understanding what is actually happening in your body when the crying starts. And you now understand more of that than you did before this video started. The parent who keeps trying to do better after the hard moments. The one who feels the shame and asks the difficult question and looks for the real answer instead of just the reassuring one. That parent is already the parent their child needs. Not the perfect parent. Not the one who never loses patience or raises their voice or has a moment they wish they could take back. The one who comes back. Who repairs, who shows up the next day and tries again with slightly more understanding than they had the day before. That is not a small thing. In the neuroscience of attachment and child development, the parent who repairs after rupture, who returns after the hard moment with warmth and presence, teaches their child something that the parent who never struggles never gets to teach. That love survives difficulty. That people who care about you come back. That the relationship is bigger than the worst moment inside it. Your child does not need you to be perfect. They need you to keep trying. And you already are. If this gave you something real today, a way of seeing your hardest moments with more understanding and less shame, share it with a parent who needs to hear it right now. And subscribe. Because you deserve to understand yourself as clearly as you are trying to understand your child.